When I discovered how to use the law of attraction, the universe began to say, yes. Close your eyes for a moment and try to remember the first time the world seemed to respond to you. Perhaps it was a small, almost imperceptible sign, a coincidence, an unexpected encounter, a sentence that arrived at the exact right moment. But before that instant, there was something silent and persistent, the feeling of being stuck in a repeating cycle, waking up with hope and falling asleep with the weight of frustration, as if, despite all efforts, life remained motionless, like a dammed river. I know this invisible pain. It doesn't scream. It doesn't show itself clearly, but it corrodes from within. It is the pain of feeling that you've tried everything, of believing you are asking the universe with all your soul and yet nothing changes. It is an emptiness that, at the same time, fills with questions. Does the universe hear me? Is there something wrong with me? These questions accumulate like dense clouds, hiding the sun that still exists but seems so distant. It was in this shadowy territory that Bruce Lipton's words began to make sense to me. He speaks of the internal chemistry of beliefs, and how every cell in our body responds to the stories we tell ourselves. Think about it. If the stories you carry are of scarcity, rejection, fear, your body doesn't just listen, it believes. And when the body believes, all your energy is shaped by that narrative. It's as if the universe isn't telling you no, but as if it is merely reflecting what already exists within. Joe Dispenza deepens this perspective by reminding us that we don't attract what we want, but what we are at a vibrational and emotional level. It's not the wish list that matters, but the frequency we emit. Imagine yourself as a radio station. Your desire is the music you want to hear, but your internal tuning is the dial. If the dial is not aligned with the music's frequency, the sound comes through distorted or not at all. And the most surprising thing is that sometimes we are so focused on turning the knob forcefully that we don't realize that deep down we are not listening, just trying to control. The turning point for me was when I realized that the no I felt wasn't coming from the outside. It was my own tuning that was preventing me from hearing the yes that was already being broadcast. This discovery didn't happen explosively, but as a whisper in the silence. And it was in that whisper that I began to understand the universe is not a judge, it is a mirror. It does not arbitrarily decide who deserves what. It simply responds to what we vibrate, and what we vibrate is shaped every day by the stories we tell ourselves. And perhaps, as you listen to me now, a part of you feels that you already knew this on some level, but knowing is not the same as living. The real transformation begins when this knowledge descends from the mind to the body, and from the body to the soul. It is when we stop just thinking about change and start becoming the change. If you wish, in the next chapter we can enter that invisible territory where the mind asks, but emotion cancels. It is there that most manifestations get lost, and it is there that the key begins to turn in the lock. The invisible error, asking the universe with the mind and canceling with emotion. There is a silent paradox that keeps many people stuck in the same place, the distance between what is thought and what is felt. It's like sending a letter to the universe with words written in the ink of hope, and before it reaches its destination, spilling the invisible ink of fear on the paper. The mind says, I want prosperity, but the body, steeped in memories of loss and failure, whispers, it's not safe. The request departs as light, but emotion acts as a shadow, extinguishing its brilliance along the way. Bruce Lipton explains that our beliefs do not live only in the mind, but are rooted in the body as chemical memories. Every cell carries records of what we have already lived: rejections, disappointments, moments when we believed we were not enough. These records do not stay in the past. They shape the internal chemistry of the present, as if the body is always expecting the next chapter to repeat the previous ones. That is why we so often ask with our mouths, but vibrate a different story with our skin. Imagine someone who claims to want prosperity but spends hours reliving old debts, feeling the weight and anxiety they caused. Even without realizing it, this person daily feeds the vibrational field of lack. It's like planting seeds of abundance in the dry soil of distrust. No matter how much the mind tries to visualize bountiful harvests, the body still believes that hunger is inevitable, and the universe, which responds much more to vibration than to intention, reflects this state. What's most subtle is that often we are not aware of this internal contradiction. We might be repeating positive affirmations while our heart races with the memory of a failure, or while our breath shortens when thinking about the future. This difference in language, positive thoughts versus misaligned emotions, creates a mixed signal in the field around us, and a mixed signal doesn't have enough strength to open doors. This is where the silent transformation begins. It is not enough to change what you think. You must teach the body to feel differently, to teach each cell to recognize the safety of a new scenario until the internal chemistry stops repeating the old story. When mind and emotion meet on the same frequency, there is no noise in the request. And in that instant, the universe finally hears a clear message: anxious expectation, the slowest shortcut to manifest. There is a type of urgency that seems like a virtue, but is actually a gentle poison. The rush for something to happen soon. It disguises itself as faith, but deep down carries the seed of doubt. It's like holding a flower and pulling its petals every day to see if they have already bloomed. And in that gesture, preventing the natural cycle itself from being completed. Anxious expectation does not speed up the path, it lengthens it, like a river that meanders without finding the sea. When we desire something intensely, it is natural to imagine its arrival. But there is a profound difference between having a clear intention and being trapped in a suffocating attachment. Intention is like an arrow shot at a target, firm, precise, and then released into the air to complete its journey. Attachment, on the other hand, is like holding onto the string of that arrow, pulling it back whenever fear whispers, "What if it doesn't happen?" In this state, what seemed like movement becomes stagnation. Neuroscience helps us understand why this happens. Excessive expectation stimulates a high production of dopamine in the brain, the neurotransmitter linked to the anticipation of reward. In small doses, this motivates us, but when this production is constant and uncontrolled, it creates a state of tension and vigilance that prevents emotional coherence. It's like trying to tune a radio station while someone is constantly spinning the dial. The sound never comes in clear. Joe Dispenza says that manifesting is not just visualizing, but emotionally living the experience as if it were already real. Anxious expectation prevents this, because it keeps the body on alert, vibrating in, "I don't have it yet," instead of, "I have already received it." It is a subtle but crucial difference. When we live in, "not yet," the universe receives the signal that absence is what is active in our field. Symbolically, anxious expectation is like a traveler who, upon setting out on the road, stops at every step to check if they have arrived. They get tired, irritated, and begin to doubt if there is even a destination ahead. But the one who walks with quiet confidence does not need to check at every moment. They keep going, and it is precisely this journey, light, constant, secure, that gets them there. When imagination creates energetic bridges, there is a place within us where time has no same measure, and where the impossible loses its name. This place is the imagination, not as childish fantasy, but as a creative tool. Bruce Lipton states that the subconscious mind does not distinguish between a lived fact and an experience lived intensely in the imagination. To it, both are equally real, and if the body responds to everything the mind believes, then imagination ceases to be just a dream and becomes an energetic rehearsal of reality. Science shows that when we visualize with rich detail, we activate the same neural networks that would be triggered if we were actually living that experience. It is as if each thought were an invisible sculptor, molding new connections in the brain and, at the same time, emitting a clearer signal to the quantum field. Joe Dispenza explains that when we unite a mental image with authentic emotion, the body begins to produce the chemistry of "it already is," even before the eyes see it. And in this state, the future ceases to be just a possibility. It begins to become inevitable. A good metaphor to understand this is that of a bridge that only appears when the traveler decides to take the first step into the void. As long as he waits for proof to believe, the space ahead remains an abyss. But when with a firm heart he steps into nothingness, the wood appears under his feet. Step by step, the crossing is built, not because there was a ready path, but because the decision to walk summoned the path to exist. This is how imagination works when used with coherence. It does not need evidence to act. It creates the evidence. This energetic bridge is not made of stones or steel, but of conscious repetition. Each time you imagine and feel a desired reality as if it were present, you reinforce the structure of this bridge. Every visualized detail, every cultivated emotion, adds more firmness to the ground that once seemed invisible. And the more solid the bridge becomes, the more natural it is to cross it. But there is an essential point. Creative imagination is not an escape from the present. It is the seed that is planted in the present to flourish in the future. To escape from reality is to refuse to care for the soil. To create with imagination is to prepare the land to receive the harvest. And when body, mind, and heart work together in this cultivation, the distance between desire and realization begins to disappear. Reprogramming in daily life. Micro decisions that change the field. Great changes rarely arrive with a bang. Most of the time, they creep in through small, almost invisible gestures that are repeated silently, until they transform the entire course of a life. The energetic field we emit is not built only in grand meditations or declarations of intention, but in the fine fabric of daily choices, in the way we react to the unexpected, in the words we choose when speaking to ourselves, in the thoughts we feed when no one is watching. Identifying the daily triggers that keep us misaligned is like noticing small cracks in a dam. A negative phrase we repeat automatically, a sigh of disbelief when thinking about the future, a gesture of self-punishment disguised as realism. These moments are seeds, and like any seed, they germinate, either in the direction of scarcity or abundance. The first step is to see them. The second is to replace them, not through denial, but with choices that are aligned with what we want to manifest. Bruce Lipton shows that every thought and emotion instantly alters the body's chemistry. A single thought of gratitude can reduce stress hormones and increase the production of substances associated with well-being. By repeating this daily, we reprogram the body's automatic responses, changing not only the mind, but also the physical body. It is a silent training that gradually replaces the old energetic signature with a new one, more coherent with our desires. Think of someone who desires more love in their life. It may seem that the work is in attracting someone, but the real process begins the moment that person decides to treat themselves with more care, respond to themselves with kind words, smile more often even without an apparent reason. Each micro-decision is like lighting a small candle in the dark. Alone, they may seem insignificant. Together, they create a new dawn. These choices are not made only in the mind, but in the body. It is when a thought of resistance arises and, instead of being fed, it is replaced by a physical action coherent with the desired reality. Small acts, like standing up with an erect posture, opening the windows and breathing deeply, or playing music that awakens joy, do not just change the present moment, they send a clear signal to the universe. This is the frequency I choose to sustain, when the yes is already in the air. There is a moment in the journey when something changes almost imperceptibly. It's not the moment when external reality transforms in an obvious way, but the one when, inside, we feel we are no longer in the same vibration as before. It is as if the air around us becomes lighter, as if the path ahead has fewer stones. In that instant, the universe's yes does not arrive as a surprise, but as the natural unfolding of something that had been happening inside us for a long time. Bruce Lipton calls the state where belief and desire enter into coherence the biology of yes. At this point, the body stops reacting with the chemistry of fear or doubt, and begins to produce substances that support expansion. It's like changing the soul's fuel. Energy is no longer consumed for defense and starts being used to create. The breath deepens, muscles relax, and even posture changes. The physical body confirms that it is ready to receive what it once only dreamed of. Joe Dispenza describes this moment as the collapse of the quantum wave, the instant when, in the field of infinite possibilities, the unique combination of emotion, mental image, and present action generates a concrete result. It is not about forcing the universe, but about aligning with an internal state so coherent that manifestation becomes inevitable. The yes is not granted as a prize, but revealed as a reflection. The metaphor of the echo helps to understand. Imagine you are in a deep valley, shouting what you desire. If your voice is laden with fear, the echo returns only that fear. But when the voice becomes clear, secure, and silently convinced, the echo returns the same tone, multiplied. The answer was already there, but it only became audible when you stopped shouting to listen. Silence, in this case, is not the absence of sound. It is the perfect tuning with the frequency one wants to receive. And in the end, the final key is this. It is not about convincing the universe. It is about convincing yourself until there is no more room for doubt, until every cell, every thought, and every gesture are pointing in the same direction. At that moment, reality has no choice but to reflect this internal truth, and the yes that seemed distant reveals itself as something that was always in the air, waiting for you to be ready to hear it.